think about it. If the goal is to know yourself, it includes both negative and positive qualities. But you would be shocked at how many people do not know what their strengths are. Hello, and welcome to the Empress podcast. I am your host, Jessica, known in the online space as Jess the Empress. I started this podcast to help you be present with yourself, cope with chaos, and simplify your life. I do this by combining psychology, behavioral science, and the tarot. I have a background in mental health, specifically a master's in clinical social work from USC, and I'm a professional tarot reader. So get ready to have a nurturing, creative, and empowering experience with me as we use practical magic. Hey, hi, hello, welcome back. My name is Jess. I'm happy that you're here spending a little time with me. We are going to get into the July episode. So we're going to pull some tarot cards. For those of you that are new, the format, we're going to pull cards on what it is that we're bringing in, what we're welcoming in July. Then we're going to shift into what we're leaving behind. And then lastly, we're going to focus on mind, body, soul connection. All of that is going to come from the tarot. I also have an oracle cards deck, and we're going to pull from there just to see what the cards have to say, give a little message. Sometimes oracle readings are a really nice complement to the tarot. Okay, you guys, we just had a card fly out. It's the Queen of Cups. So this is what we're welcoming, Queen of Cups. See what else we get. Okay. Queen of Cups and the Knight of Swords. There's a technique in mindfulness and in lots of different therapy practices that includes welcoming your thoughts in, welcoming them into the room. And that's the message that I get here with the Queen of Cups and the Knight of Swords, especially because from my perspective, the Knight is running into the Queen of Cups, and she is actually embracing that cup. I want to talk more about this concept of welcoming your thoughts into the room. One of the ways that we trip ourselves up mentally is that we judge our own thoughts instead of letting our thoughts exist. Our minds are really busy. They're always going to tell us something about everything that we're engaging with because that's what the mind is supposed to do. The mind is supposed to come up with stories that are supposed to protect us. So when we're reading situations, a room of people, walking down the street, our mind is giving us stories about whether or not we're safe. One of the ways that we create safety in our body as a felt sense of safety is to allow our thoughts to just do their thing without getting so attached to them and shifting into hyperfocus. So once we realize that we're not really in any type of threat, we can breathe a little easier, walk down the street, be relaxed. If we're not taking the time to really acknowledge everything we have going on in our mind, it could drive us into becoming a little more anxious and neurotic and controlling. And part of the story that the mind might have is that you have to be that anxious, neurotic, or controlling in order for things to go the way that you want them to go. And so I want you to also welcome in other thoughts this month. I want you to be decisive about what stories you're entertaining within your own mind. I mean, because let's be honest, there's going to be times where there is an actual threat, whether it's a threat to your safety, whether that's, physical safety, emotional safety, mental safety. Your brain is always assessing these things, rapid speed in the background, every given moment of the day. And its job is to protect you, right? To keep you as comfortable as possible so that you don't put yourself in harm's way. Because in a lot of ways, that's a direct threat to the brain, because if the brain ceases to exist, then you cease to exist from the brain's perspective. I hope that makes sense. It's like once we can't think about ourselves anymore, then what is there, right? That's sort of the underlining question or fear. The Queen of Cups is a very receptive energy. So there is that welcoming that I mentioned earlier. That's like a phrase I like to say when I'm noticing that my mind has a bunch of thoughts, whether it's like, oh my gosh, this person is attacking me, or what are they thinking? All those thoughts that everybody has. I want you to know that it's fine to have those thoughts and then to say, okay, you can be here for sure. However, maybe there's another way to see this person. Maybe there's another way to see this scenario. I'm going to explore alternative perspectives. And as I'm exploring alternative perspectives, I'm also just going to breathe through this, like very simply breathe through what it is that I'm feeling. The Queen of Cups is the realm of emotion. So, yes, we have emotional caretaking of ourselves, but we also have emotional caretaking of other people in the Queen of Cups. Even though there are no other people present in the photo, she does represent a higher responsibility, a responsibility that is in service to other people, the collective, whether that's large scale or nuclear, like your family. When we're taking better care of ourselves, we can better caretake the people that are around us. If we happen to be just so locked up in our mind and letting our minds run the show, we're not able to really listen effectively to other people or take action from a place that's a little more relaxed and calm. Another way I can phrase this is the oxygen mask analogy. So, when there's a lot of turbulence on a plane, the masks will fall down, and you're supposed to put yours on first before you put it on other people because you can't put it on another person if you're passed out. So, you have to take care of yourself first. To be clear, this doesn't usually look like spending hours and hours a day feeling your feelings like for long bouts of time and journaling about them and getting to the root and going deep. While that is a space, sometimes it's usually not the day to day type of space that you can exist in. With the Knight of Swords being here, it just tells me that the confusion, the overwhelming thoughts, the thoughts that aren't yours, but that are just kind of stuck back in your brain, because we all have that type of stuff, those thoughts aren't as loud. They're there. It's not something that spirals you and takes you out of action because the Knight of Swords is a card of action. So your mind is really active, but you need to look at how your mind is informing your feelings and then how you're actually taking action from your feelings. So here's an example. Let's say Sarah has a meeting on Friday and she needs to give a presentation. She's got all the information down and she keeps freaking out. She keeps feeling like she doesn't have enough. She's not really sure what her boss is going to say. She's scared to make a mistake. And it's Monday. On Tuesday, she feels the same. On Wednesday, she feels the same. On Thursday, she feels the same. She's letting her mind really just spiral her out of control for 4 days before the presentation is due. She's totally freaking out. She's not taking any time for herself to really maybe journal what she's feeling and what she's thinking. She's not taking the time to confront those thoughts that are looping her into this worst case scenario. Now, let's talk about Megan. Megan also has a presentation due on Friday. She's definitely feeling some anxiety, but she does something different. She exercises compassion with herself. And she says, you know what? I'm noticing that I'm feeling a little anxious about this presentation on Friday. And I really want to show up and I really want to do my best. And I think that this anxiety is fine. I feel like I'm anticipating what could happen. And I'm also noticing that what my mind is telling me, it's like the worst case scenario. So notice how in this example, Megan is critically looking at the context of her thoughts, whereas Sarah just kept looping into those thoughts of, I don't know, I can't do this, I don't want to get it wrong. Those are two very different spaces. I want you to be in the same space as Megan when it comes to doing, anything in your life. The way that you get to Megan's space of being able to critically think about what your mind is telling you is through self-reflection and slowing down and getting curious. And then also identifying the feeling, right? She had enough ability to say, whoa, I'm feeling this within me, which means we need to slow down and feel our feelings in the month of July. And like I mentioned, this work isn't to dig up everything from the past and get to the root of the trauma. It's to say, I'm feeling anxious. That means I probably want some reassurance. I want to feel confident. What is it that I can do? Like, what other actions can I take? What words might I be able to tell myself? What support can I get in order to boost those feelings that I want? So that way, when my time gets here to give my presentation, I'm feeling pretty good about it. So, welcoming in the thoughts is just about letting them exist and noticing what the context of the thoughts are, and then deciding, does that really match what you value, right? If you keep entertaining those thoughts, yeah, but welcome in those thoughts. Welcome them in because they're just thoughts and you can always change your mind. All right, let's shift into what we're releasing. So, what are we releasing in the month of July? Three of Pentacles, the Magician in the reverse position. So, this definitely goes back to the doubt. We're going to be releasing doubt in July, and it's going to happen through you going back and looking at what it is that you already know. Okay. So, because that's right with doubt. It's like you don't know something, but the reality is that you know more than you think. You're just not refreshing yourself on what it is you already know. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to touch back in to the foundational points of whatever it is that you are working on. I can give you a personal example. So here's something I'm working on. In my work, one of my tasks is to summarize articles. Now, it's been a long time since I've summarized an article in a way that is public. I'll summarize an article for myself in ways that make sense for me and for the podcast. But because I'm working for other people now, there's a format to it that's a little bit more formal. But it's just been a really long time since I've used that type of format. So I'm rusty on my summarization skills. But I watched a couple of YouTube videos just to like refresh my memory on what it is I already know. And things are already coming back to me, which is awesome. But I still need to take action. I still need to implement the things that I understand and know so that I'm not so rusty at it. But I have to use my skills because otherwise they'll just remain rusty. So I'm taking it, step by step as I'm looking at the articles, reviewing everything, writing my notes, blah, blah, blah. And I've had to shed some doubt because I was getting some feedback where people were having to redo quite a few things. And I was like, I feel like that should be something I'm getting right instead of being something they're fixing. Because if it's my responsibility to do it, I want to do it to the best of my ability. And I didn't feel like I was really at my peak performance with that particular summarization task. And I kind of freaked out for a second and I was like, oh my God, like I suck at this. Like, what the hell? And then I remembered, hello, I went to grad school. Hello, I know how to do this. It's just been a long time since I've had to use this skill set. So let me go back, let me touch back in on the foundation, right? The formula for creating a good summary. And then, of course, the work is going to keep coming to me. So I am not short for practice. But I've got a little roadmap in front of me, and that's helping boost my confidence, especially when my brain just wants to take over and try to overthink it, overcomplicate it. No, I have a little flow chart. I'm good to go. I'm feeling happy about it. So with Pentacles, I mean, it's pretty practical. If you need to make a little flow chart for yourself, that is the basics. If you need to have a little cheat sheet, babe, go ahead and do it. Who cares? Who cares? Put it in your phone. You're fine because it's something that is going to help you help other people. We definitely see that in the Three of Pentacles. You're a part of this system. And if you're not operating at your confidence in a system, you're not actually helping anybody. Yes, you can have false confidence. Yes, you can take action and do the thing, but taking action from a place of insecurity can sometimes have negative consequences because you're not really fully present in what you're doing. Your mind might be a little occupied with that doubt. And so you're not being able to devote full attention to the task at hand. So, of course, we're going to welcome in the doubt. I notice you. You're a story. Okay, got it. Thanks for being here. Welcome into the room. And what else do I know? Yeah. And then we're releasing it. We're saying, okay, thanks so much for being here. And then, be here, but, you're not going to drive the bus. I also feel like there's a rebalancing of how we're using our power. So, what I mean by our power, I mean our life force energy, the thing that's making your heartbeat and my heartbeat without us even thinking about it, those electrical impulses, right? When we wake up in the morning, we're already using it. We're using it to check our email, to walk our dogs, to feed our kids, to do all the things. The magician reversed is like the card of latent talent. So this suggests that we all have talent. We all have something that we're pretty good at doing. We have natural strengths. There isn't one person I've actually met and worked with that didn't have natural strengths. But I work with a lot of people that don't know how to recognize what their natural strengths are. And that's part of my job is helping them. It's so important that you see your talents and you see your strengths and you capitalize on them because, again, that supports you and other people because you get to be a person in the world that's lit up and knowing who you are just a little bit more. Think about it. If the goal is to know yourself, it includes both negative and positive qualities. But you would be shocked at how many people do not know what their strengths are. They're looking externally. And look, don't be feeling any type of way if you're sitting here and you're like, oh my God, I don't know what my strengths are, because it's normal to not know. Maybe no one has ever reflected those things to you. No one maybe has ever complimented you or taken the time out to let you know that something you do really naturally is an actually really cool thing. So that's another way to release the doubt is by acknowledging what your strengths are. What are you good at? Because we're not going to be good at every single thing that we try. We're going to get rusty sometimes. Some things are going to be way harder for us to do than other things. And if all we're doing is comparing ourselves to other people, thinking, oh, they're good at that, we don't know that that's not a skill that they didn't work for either. So we need to check ourselves on that. We're going to release the doubt and all the spiraling that comes with that whole space. Okay, now we're going to shift into mind, body, soul connection. Seven of Wands and the Hermit card. Do you know what this is giving? This is giving you've been here before, but you are not doing the work. July's energy suggests that we need to be a little more receptive. We need to be a little more receptive to when we're being the bad guy. Oh my God, you guys are not going to like this, but guess what? It's not like I'm not in the same boat. So the Seven of Swords, the Seven of Wands is a card of defensiveness. It's this card of feeling like you need to protect yourself at all costs. And there's a lot of ego wrapped up in it, as there should be. I mean, if you're trying to defend yourself, then that means you do want to make sure that you feel safe. But let me just say this, not everything needs to be a fight. Okay. Not everything needs to be a fight. I mean this in big ways and I mean this in small ways. Let me tell you how I mean this in small ways. Let's say your partner was going to do the dishes and then they didn't do the dishes. And then you walk into the kitchen and there's the dirty dishes and you're like, oh, it's burning you up inside. And you want to stomp into the other room and you want to yell at your partner for not doing what they said they were going to do. You want to berate them and all the things because you're feeling angry, let down, disappointed, whatever. Maybe there's some underlying resentments or something that you need to kind of do a little bit of investigating around. Because let's be honest, if you want to yell at your partner because the dishes aren't done, there's something else going on. If you're feeling like you're just on edge, I think it's also important to pay attention to what it is that you need. You know, you have underlying needs. What I think is interesting in this card, because the person has two different shoes on, it does to me feel like a rushed energy. So it makes me feel like there's some chaos in the background of your life that does need to be cleaned up a little bit so that you can rest a little bit easier. When you're in a defensive place, it's a lot harder to let things go. It's a lot harder to have the thoughts of, I want to say something. And then you say, wait a minute, of course, I'm going to welcome that thought in, but I'm not going to take action from that thought. I'm going to do the dishes, or I'm going to gently remind my partner that they forgot to do the dishes. Not going to make a fight about it. Okay. That's an example in a small way. In a big way, it could be maybe your boss giving you criticism on something and you do not know how to take that criticism. You're taking it as this huge threat of like, oh my God, like I'm so inadequate and they're seeing this and I don't want this. This is embarrassing. This is the worst case scenario. For mind, body, soul connection, it's so important that you just remember that you are human and humans are not perfect. We are flawed because that's just part of what it is to be a human. It is the human experience. You're going to mess stuff up. You're going to miss things. You're not going to get it right all the time. And that doesn't mean that you have to protect yourself from people seeing when you make a mistake. Same thing goes for your partner. If you're highly critical of the people around you because you expect perfection, somewhere along the line, that was expected of you, that high level of perfection. Maybe you were raised with people that didn't know how to let things go, that never taught you you could let things go. But I assure you, for the peace that you want in your life, you can let things go. And I mean, as much as I love like the Buddha, kind of stuff you see today, and it's like, let that shit go. It's not always that simple. Okay, so let's talk about how we can make it a little bit easier. The Hermit card can represent two things. From mind, body, soul connection, one of those things is taking a little time to yourself to really get access to what it is that you need. So, this is different than what we've talked about at the beginning of the episode. This means that you might want to really take 15 minutes to go deep. You might want to really write things down, even if different words come to mind or feelings or textures or whatever. You want to note all of those things. So, taking time to yourself is number one. Number two is talking about the way you feel with trusted people, people that can be a sounding board for how you're feeling. They're not going to judge you because you're feeling some type of way in the moment. They're really going to want to listen to why you might feel that way and what you might really need. And then also, help you brainstorm on how to have those needs met. Even though the hermit is alone in the card, it doesn't mean you have to do this alone. To achieve the mind, body, soul connection, you want to involve, again, trusted people, but really learning how to take a deep breath and learning how to let things go, learning to recognize what it is that you want to fight about, what it is that you want to split hairs over, and then having a bigger picture. The hermit is at the top of a mountain, so it has an overview of what's going on. When you're really narrowed in on something very minute like the dishes, that's a good time to take yourself way, way, way higher. Okay. What is the overview of this relationship to you? What does the overview of your day look like? What does the overview of your freaking life look like? Does this really matter in 6 months? Is this going to matter? In 6 weeks, is this going to matter? In 6 days, is this going to matter? In 6 hours, is this going to matter? Take the overview. It's a way of thinking. It's a critical way of thinking about something. And this is personal growth and development. Mind, body, soul connection happen when we move in an aligned way. If you're telling me, let's say you were my client and you're coming in and you're like, I want more peace in my life, but I'm always fighting with my partner. I would start asking questions of like, what are you guys fighting about? And I would dig deep enough to understand what you're feeling about a lot of different things in your life. And of course, I would ask you, what really matters to you? What's really important out of all these things that you guys are fighting about? Because you're telling me you want peace, yet the second your partner is coming home, you're yelling at them about something, or the opposite. Sometimes people are in relationships where their partner is the more critical one and they feel like they have to constantly defend themselves. And I'm like, well, what if you didn't? What if you just let your partner think that they were right? What if it didn't matter? Like, take why go into the fight? All right. And then lastly, let's go ahead and get into our oracle card reading. So we just had one flip out of the deck, which is the final step oracle card. Hey there, coffee lovers. Are you tired of settling for boring coffee? I have a treat for you. Today's episode is brought to you by Heartwork Coffee Bar, your one-stop destination for exceptional coffee experiences. Whether you're a coffee connoisseur or just someone who appreciates a great cup of joe, Heartwork Coffee Bar is here to elevate your coffee game to new heights. At Heartwork Coffee Bar, they take pride in their craft because each batch is carefully roasted to perfection, ensuring that every sip is a symphony of flavor. From the rich and the robust to the light and fruity, they have a coffee blend for every palate. And here's the best part. For you amazing podcast listeners, Heartwork Coffee Bar is offering an exclusive 10% discount on your purchase. Just use the code Empress10 at checkout and you'll save big on your order. Why settle for ordinary when you can indulge in the extraordinary coffee from Heartwork Coffee Bar? Remember to use code Empress10 for that special 10% discount and treat yourself to the coffee experience that you deserve. Don't miss out on this fantastic offer. Thank you so much for tuning in, and thanks to Heartwork Coffee Bar for making today's episode possible. Now go grab your favorite mug, brew a fresh cup, and enjoy the podcast with the perfect companion, Heartwork Coffee Bar. Cheers. What else here? Birth is the card, and slow down. I don't know about you, but I know that there's a lot of times in my life when I'm about to start something new and I'm so excited for what's ahead that I forget about what I'm leaving behind. I will sometimes forget to celebrate something that I accomplished because I'm so excited about the next thing that I get to do. But I know that when I slow down and I act with intention around the things that I'm closing out, I get to enjoy it a lot more. And I can savor those moments. I can feel a lot more tapped into the hard work and effort that I put into, if it's a project, or just my time in a certain location coming to an end. I can definitely say that I haven't always, felt fully connected to leaving a place behind, especially again when something really beautiful and exciting has been on the horizon. What's coming to mind personally is having a ritual, like a closing ritual, which is something that I do in ceremony with different spells and things. Not always, but sometimes. But maybe having more of a closing ceremony around my day, around just being able to say, I did this thing. Yeah, just like savoring the final steps of something that you put it together, that you're arriving near the end. That's exciting. And yes, there can also be exciting things on the other side of that final step. But slowing down to acknowledge, yeah, there's a final step here. And sometimes I wonder if not acknowledging the last part of the process has been a way to avoid other uncomfortable feelings. It's very possible, especially feelings of like grief and sadness, because I get so excited, like I said, and I just want to pay attention to those feelings. But yeah, for all of us in the month of July, let's acknowledge different things. Let's really close things out and let things go from this place that is a little more connected to that process. And who knows what can happen? You might even feel a sense of pride and satisfaction. I know that there are times that I have felt those things, but it looks like you and I are going to be practicing that in the month of July. That's a really welcomed energy. I'm happy to do that. And that wraps us up for July. So I really want to thank you so much for being here again. I genuinely appreciate you. I hope that whatever you're doing it with all of your heart. I hope that wherever you are okay and you are taking care of yourself. And I will talk to you soon. Bye. Hey, love, I want to ask you to rate and review my podcast. Giving me a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts would mean the world to me. I love knowing who's listening and what everyone is getting from the episode, so please take a moment of your time to share your thoughts, and I look forward to reading your reviews soon.